morning. Good morning and welcome to the SVForum Cloud Conference. I'm Chris Gill, CEO of SVForum. My great pleasure to welcome you here this morning. I'll keep this brief as we're running a little bit behind time. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Microsoft for hosting the event in this terrific facility they have here, SAP and IBM for event sponsors, and special recognition to Accenture, who's sponsoring the wine reception. Yes, for Accenture at the end of this. And particular thanks to the organizing committee of Bernard Golden, John Mack, and Dave Nielsen for organizing this. Without their support and help, we could not have done this. I'd also like to recognize some people. If you see a harried woman running around trying to herd the cats, that's Natalie at the back here, who's been doing all the logistics for us. So should certainly let's give Natalie a round of applause, actually, because she's done all the work on this. With no further ado, let's get underway, because running behind time, I would like to introduce Dave Nielsen, Mr. Cloud Camp himself. Come on up, Dave.
Great, thanks, Chris. So, good morning, everyone. My name is Dave Nielsen. I do recognize a lot of you, but for those of you who don't know me, my background is basically in web services. I've started a web services user group. We call them SIGs at SVForum back in 2001, and I've been running that group for the last 11 years. And as you can imagine, web services is sort of a predecessor to cloud computing, and it brought us right up into cloud computing, and we changed the name of the SIG to the Cloud SIG, and brought on a couple of co-chairs, John and Bernard, who Chris just introduced. And so together we have quite a bit of experience, and we're able to work with Natalie and SVForum to pull together some great speakers today. I want to just briefly make a couple comments, since I have been out in the field working with folks, mostly at events like this, unconferences, which are a little bit more informal, or a little less formal, I should say, and having discussions about what's going on in the cloud computing industry. And I don't want to steal any thunder from some of our presenters, but I just would like to share a couple comments, a couple thoughts before we get going. And the number one thing I'd like to share is that although it seems for many of us that cloud computing has been here for quite a while, we are by no means to the end of this. And in fact, even though the topic is, it's no longer for startups, it's for enterprises, there's a whole other stage that is going to come when we start talking about entire industries. And for example, if you just think about the internet and the web itself, and ask yourself, the biggest industries out there that impact us today, namely healthcare, education, our governments, have they really been impacted by the web? Really, if you think about it? And you combine that with all of us and all of the opportunity that we have to contribute our ideas and our suggestions and feedback and improvements, and even rolling up our own sleeves and getting involved and helping out as citizens and users of in these industries. We really have not begun to touch those industries with cloud computing and with community-based interactivity. So I think we're still at a very early stage when it comes to how cloud computing and the web itself is going to impact these systems. And I think we've reached sort of a first milestone where the enterprises themselves are starting to look at cloud computing very seriously and actually invest significant resources into it. So I wouldn't be me if I didn't first ask you if you had any suggestions for today or comments before we get started. I know that there might not be anything pressing right now, but I just want to make sure that we give you the opportunity. Does anybody here have a comment, or did we miss anything, or a comment about what I just said before we move on? Anybody? Okay, well, you have plenty of opportunity to ask our speakers after they give their talks, but I just had to ask. Okay. All right, so as I said, we have a great lineup today. Our first speaker is James Staton. He is the Vice President of and principal analyst at Forrester. And I was looking through his bio here. It's quite long, so I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I did want to comment that he has over 20 years of experience in a lot of different areas, in different industries. He's served as a reseller and a strategist for various companies, chief marketing officer. It's quite varied, actually. A journalist. He's been analyst for companies like Autodesk, Azul System, Gartner, Rockwell International, Sun Microsystems. He speaks at a lot of industry events like this one. And I think what's most interesting, and the reason why I think he's an excellent choice to lead off our conference, is he's been named the top cloud analyst by various organizations each of the last 5 years. So that gives him, in my book, a lot of credibility. And I would like to welcome James Staton. Thank you very much.